Laura had always been the kind of kid who saw patterns in everything. Traffic lights, grocery store lines, even the way the school's old heaters clicked before turning on. At 11 years old, she was already the kind of STEM-focused mind that teachers whispered about in the hallways. The student who might one day build something the rest of the world hadn't even imagined yet. For months, she had been pouring that passion into one single project, her admissions submission for the Westbridge Gifted STEM Academy, one of the top programs in a country. The assignment was brutal for most students, a fully functioning prototype plus a digital development log. But to Laura, it was the kind of challenge that made her come alive. She built everything herself in the little corner of her bedroom she called her lab, a mix of old circuit boards, 3D printed parts, and hand-labeled bins filled with wires she'd collected from thrift stores. Her prototype, a small autonomous navigation robot, was her proudest creation. It could read color-coded pathways, adjust to obstacles, and even rewrite its own pathfinding if something unexpected blocked the route. Her teachers called it shockingly advanced. Her parents simply called it so very Laura. The deadline was the next morning. She had already uploaded the draft version, but was making final calibration adjustments before submitting the polished file. Everything was ready, everything was perfect, and then her aunt arrived. Her Aunt Rebecca had always made Laura uneasy, though she couldn't fully explain why. Something in the woman's smile never matched her eyes, and she was one of those adults who felt threatened by kids who were smarter than they expected. She was also the mother of Megan, Laura's cousin, smart enough, but more interested in popularity than equations. Megan was applying to the same academy but had struggled through the entire project period, making excuses week after week. Laura had tried to help her cousin, but after 3 video calls of Megan barely paying attention, she politely backed out. Rebecca swept into the house with the same energy she brought everywhere, a loud, intrusive confidence. She claimed she arrived to keep the girls company, but Laura's parents suspected she mostly wanted to check on her daughter's competition. They weren't entirely wrong. Rebecca wandered the house freely, and when she noticed Laura's setup, she gave an exaggerated laugh. "Wow, that's cute," she said, staring at the completed robot and the carefully organized files open on Laura's laptop. Laura's stomach tightened. Something felt off. She saved her work, as she always did, and stepped out to grab a snack while her mum and Art talked in the kitchen. She was gone less than 15 minutes. When she returned, her heart dropped to the floor. Her entire project folder, months of coding, logs, progress videos, blueprint files, was gone, deleted, not in the recycle bin, not in backups, gone. Her breath caught in her throat as she frantically clicked through every directory. Her robot was still there physically, sitting on the desk like it didn't know its soul had been ripped out. Laura blinked hard, fighting the panic rising in her chest. She had saved everything. She had protected every version. She had done everything right. "Mum," she called, her voice cracking. Her mother rushed in, followed by Rebecca. The moment her mum saw Laura's pale face and the empty screen, she wrapped an arm around her. "What's wrong?" "My files," Laura whispered. "Someone deleted my project." For one split second, so fast Laura almost doubted she saw it, Rebecca smiled, just a tiny, satisfied curl of the lips. Then she gasped theatrically. "Oh goodness, honey. Maybe you clicked something by mistake. Kids do that all the time." "I didn't," Laura said firmly. Her mother knew that tone. That tone meant certainty. "Rebecca," her mum said slowly, "you were the only person in here." Rebecca placed a hand to her chest. Offended. "Are you accusing me? I wouldn't touch that nerd thing." Those words, Laura felt them like a slap. Her mum's eyes narrowed. "We'll talk downstairs." They left the room, and Laura heard hushed voices, her mum angry, Rebecca defensive. But no voice could bring back 5 months of work. So Laura sat at her desk, tears falling silently, and made a decision. If they wanted to break her, they wouldn't. She wiped her eyes, pulled her notebook closer, and whispered to herself, "Start over." I stood there, frozen, feeling the weight of every year I had spent trying to convince myself that my parents simply didn't know better. But as I looked at my mother clutching her cardigan like she was the injured party, and my father glaring at me like I had just ruined their peaceful evening, something inside me settled. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't miscommunication. This was who they had always been. "Where is Grace's bag?" I asked quietly. Hearing my daughter's name out loud made my voice crack. My father scoffed, probably where she threw it when she ran out. "That girl has always been dramatic." I didn't argue. I just turned toward the hallway. Grace's small backpack, grey with a faded lavender zipper, was tossed beside the laundry basket, like an afterthought. I picked it up, feeling the uneven weight that told me she had packed it fast, scared, probably crying. When I returned to the living room, my parents were whispering harshly to each other, but they stopped when they saw me. "I'm taking her home," I said. "We'll talk later." My mother lifted her chin. "You're overreacting." Maybe I was. But looking at Grace's backpack, imagining her curled up on a cold metal bench, terrified and alone, because two adults she trusted accused her instead of protecting her. No, for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. I opened the door, "Good night," and I walked out on the people who raised me. The moment I stepped outside, the sharp night air hit me, but it felt cleaner than anything inside that house. I walked quickly toward the car, clutching Grace's backpack like it was a lifeline. When I opened the door, she looked up from the passenger seat, eyes red and tired. "I'm sorry it took so long," I whispered, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "You don't have to be sorry," she murmured, voice shaky. I thought, maybe you wouldn't believe me either. Those words hit harder than anything my parents had said. I knelt beside her seat so we were eye level. "Grace, listen to me. I will always believe you. You did nothing wrong. Nothing." Her throat bobbed as she swallowed, and then she leaned forward, resting her forehead against mine. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The only sound was her uneven breathing slowly settling. When I finally drove away from my parents' neighborhood, I felt the years of history pressing against my ribs. The favoritism, the excuses, the way they had always found a reason to make me the problem. Tonight, they had simply turned that pattern on my daughter. Grace stared out the window. "They said I stole Nana's earrings." "You didn't," I said firmly. "I know, but they didn't even ask me. They just decided." I gripped the steering wheel. That was exactly what hurt the most. "They didn't lose anything," I said. "They just lost us." Grace turned toward me with a small, broken smile. Good. When we got home, the house felt softer somehow, like it was relieved we were back. Grace kicked off her shoes and immediately sank into the couch, pulling a blanket around her shoulders. I brought her a mug of warm tea, and she accepted it with both hands, fingers trembling from exhaustion. "Mum," she whispered. "Yeah. Do you think they ever cared about me? Like, really cared?" Her question carved straight through me. I sat beside her, careful not to jostle her sore ribs. "I think they cared about the version of you that fit their expectations," I said honestly. "But the real you, the smart, stubborn, kind girl sitting here, they didn't bother to get to know her." Grace nodded slowly, processing that. After a moment, she said, "Can I sleep in your room tonight?" Of course. She fell asleep almost instantly, curled against me like she used to when she was little. I listened to her breathing and tried not to fall apart. The next morning, I sent a message to my parents. "Grace won't be coming over anymore, and neither will I. Until you can treat her with the respect she deserves, consider this contact paused." It felt terrifying to hit send, but overwhelmingly right. By noon, my mother replied with a paragraph of excuses. How they were just trying to teach responsibility, how Grace overreacted, how I was blowing things out of proportion like always. Not a single word of apology. I put my phone down and walked to Grace's room. She was sitting at her desk, sketching something in her notebook. She said without looking up, "Can we go to the craft store later? I want to start a new project." That simple sentence filled me with more hope than any message from my family ever had. "Absolutely," I said. "Let's build something better." The craft store trip felt like hitting a reset button on both our lives. Grace wandered through the aisles with a spark I hadn't seen since before everything happened, touching wires, flipping through robotics kits, studying tiny solar panels like they held the secrets of the universe. "Can I pick 2 things?" she asked cautiously, like joy was something she needed permission for. "You can pick 3, I said, and her smile lit up the whole aisle. On the drive home, she talked non-stop about building a small rover, maybe even entering a local youth engineering contest. The more she talked, the more her confidence returned, piece by piece, like someone gently sweeping away the damage others had tried to carve into her. That evening, while she tested circuits on the living room floor, I opened my laptop and started researching schools, real programs, real opportunities, places that valued curiosity over compliance. That's when I stumbled across the application for the Westbridge Young Innovators Program, an advanced STEM track for middle schoolers with potential. They accepted only a handful of students each year, but as I scanned the requirements, I realized Grace had everything they wanted. The only thing missing was a mentor recommendation. I sent her science teacher an email explaining what had happened and asking if she'd be willing to write one. 10 minutes later, she replied, "Grace is one of the brightest students I've ever had. I'd be honored." My throat tightened. When I told Grace about the program, she froze mid-soldering. "Me? I'm not good enough for something like that." "You rebuilt an entire project overnight," I said softly. "You're more than good enough." She didn't argue. She just looked down at the glowing circuit, cheeks pink, a shy smile forming, as if she was finally starting to believe it. Over the next few weeks, Grace immersed herself in her project with a determination I hadn't seen since the night her files were deleted. She treated every circuit, every line of code, every mechanical joint like a puzzle to be solved. I watched her work tirelessly, offering guidance only when she asked, and for the first time, I saw her confidence truly bloom. At the same time, I began documenting everything that had happened with my parents and Aunt Rebecca. I knew that if I wanted to protect Grace in the long term, I needed a record: emails, messages, photographs of her destroyed and reconstructed work, and timestamps of every revision filled a folder on my computer. It was meticulous, but necessary. I wanted to make sure that if anyone ever doubted what happened, there would be undeniable proof. One evening, as we tested the rover's obstacle navigation system, Grace paused and looked at me. "Mom, do you think they'll ever understand that they were wrong?" I shook my head. "Some people never do, sweetheart. But you don't need them to understand. You have your talent, your integrity, and your own path forward." She nodded, absorbing the words, and then smiled as her robot successfully maneuvered around a row of books I had set up on the carpet. For a moment, all the tension of the past few months melted away, replaced by the quiet thrill of discovery and success. By the end of the week, the application for the Westbridge Young Innovators Program was complete, and Grace's portfolio, rebuilt and stronger than ever, was ready for submission. The evening before sending it, she turned to me and whispered, "I feel like I can do anything now," and I believed her. The morning of submission, Grace sat at the kitchen table, laptop open, portfolio files organized neatly on the side. She looked smaller than ever, but the fire in her eyes burned brighter than it had before. I poured her a cup of hot cocoa and set it beside her, feeling the weight of all the months of stress and heartbreak melt into a quiet determination. "Ready?" I asked gently. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Ready." As she clicked the final submit button, I realized how much this moment meant, not just for her acceptance, but for reclaiming the years that had been stolen from her by others' jealousy and manipulation. I hugged her tightly. "No matter what happens, "You've already won," I whispered. Within hours, the program confirmed receipt of her submission. The relief was immediate, but fleeting. I knew the battle wasn't over yet. Aunt Rebecca and my cousin would likely attempt to interfere in any way they could, and I had to be prepared. The folder of evidence I had compiled became our shield. Every note, every time-stamped file, every photograph was a testament to Grace's hard work and integrity. That evening, Rebecca called, her tone deceptively sweet. "Oh, I just wanted to see how Gracie's project was coming along." I know she must be so proud. I held the phone tightly, controlling my voice. Her project is hers, it's safe, and we're not discussing it with anyone else who might try to take credit. There was a pause, then a faint, strained laugh. "Of course, just thought I'd check in." I hung up, heart still racing, but a small smile formed. We were ready for whatever came next. The days following submission were a mix of relief and tension. Grace's routine became structured around testing her latest prototypes and writing detailed logs for any future projects, a habit she had developed to prevent another disaster. I noticed how she checked her work repeatedly, making sure everything was saved in multiple locations, and I couldn't help but smile at her resilience. She had been knocked down, but every time, she got back up stronger than before. One afternoon, as she worked on her robot's new mobility feature, my phone buzzed with an email notification. It was from the Academy, an initial acknowledgement of her submission, and a request for her to prepare a short video presentation. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "They want me to present?" she asked, voice a mix of awe and nervous excitement. "Yes," I said, squeezing her shoulder. "They see your talent, and they want to see it in action." She hesitated, then nodded resolutely. "Then I'll do it. I'll show them everything." For the next week, we rehearsed the presentation daily, refining her speech, practicing how to demonstrate the robot's capabilities, and building her confidence. Every evening I reminded her, this was her moment. Not my parents', not her cousins', not anyone else's. It was hers. And she responded with determination, her spirit shining brighter than it ever had. The night before the video submission, Grace sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, surrounded by sketches, circuit boards, and scattered notes. "Mum," she said softly, "what if they don't like it? What if they think it's not good enough?" I knelt beside her, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Grace, listen to me. This is the best you've ever done. You put in months of effort, and you never gave up. That's more than enough. And even if they don't select you, that doesn't change what you've accomplished or who you are." She nodded, but I could see the doubt lingering in her eyes. I held her hand and squeezed it. "Tomorrow, you'll show the world how brilliant you are. And I'll be right here, every step of the way." The next morning, we recorded her presentation. Her hands trembled slightly at first, but as she began explaining the robot's functions, her confidence grew. She demonstrated the navigation system, the obstacle avoidance, and the self-correcting algorithm flawlessly. By the end of the recording, she was beaming, proud of what she had created, and determined to prove herself, no matter what obstacles came their way. After uploading the video, we celebrated quietly. No gifts, no grand gestures, just the two of us, a sense of accomplishment, and the knowledge that we had reclaimed control over her future. Days turned into weeks, and Grace's confidence blossomed. She became more outspoken at school, participating in science club meetings, and even mentoring younger students in coding basics. The sense of accomplishment fueled her, and it was clear that the setbacks she had endured only strengthened her determination. Meanwhile, I kept documenting every interaction with my aunt and cousin, should they attempt further sabotage. Emails, text messages, and even screenshots of their social media posts were filed meticulously. Every piece of evidence was a reminder that we were protecting not only her project, but her integrity and her future. One evening, as we were going over a new project idea for a local science fair, Grace looked up at me with a determined gaze. "Mom, I think we can make this even better than before. We'll show them that no one can take what's ours. I smiled, feeling both pride and relief. She wasn't just my daughter anymore, she was a force to be reckoned with. And together, we had faced adversity and emerged stronger, ready to continue building a future that no one could steal from us. The day Grace received her acceptance email from the Westbridge Young Innovators Program, we both sat on her bedroom floor, staring at the screen in disbelief. She had done it. Months of sleepless nights, rebuilt projects, and relentless perseverance had finally paid off. Her hands trembled as she read the message aloud, and I hugged her tightly, feeling a swell of pride that threatened to overwhelm me. "This is just the beginning," I whispered. "You've earned this, Grace, every single bit of it." Her smile was radiant, but there was a shadow of lingering doubt in her eyes. "Do you think Aunt Rebecca will try to take credit now?" I shook my head firmly. "No one can take your brilliance away. Not her, not anyone else. This is yours, and you've worked too hard for anyone to diminish that." For the first time in months, she laughed. A full, unrestrained laugh that filled the room. It was the sound of freedom, of triumph, of a child finally seeing the world acknowledge her worth. We spent the rest of the evening planning her projects for the program, brainstorming new ideas, and celebrating quietly in our own way, free from the shadow of manipulation and theft that had hung over us for so long. Despite the victory, I knew the battle wasn't over. Aunt Rebecca had always been cunning, and the thought of her trying to interfere with Grace's future loomed in the back of my mind. I spent hours drafting detailed emails to school administrators, documenting every previous incident, and providing proof of Grace's original work. This wasn't just about a project anymore. It was about protecting her integrity and ensuring she received the recognition she deserved without interference. Grace, oblivious to my worries, continued to innovate relentlessly. She created a new algorithm that improved her robot's pathfinding, tested sensors with remarkable precision, and even began drafting ideas for a science fair submission that could rival her initial project. Watching her, I realized that adversity had not broken her, it had sharpened her. She was resilient, resourceful, and determined, qualities that no one could steal or diminish. Late one night, as I reviewed the documents I had compiled, Grace came into my room, holding a small notebook. "Mum," she said softly, "I want to document everything we've done, for the future." I nodded, understanding immediately. "That's a great idea, sweetheart. It would be a record of your work, your determination, and everything you've overcome." With our documentation complete, we felt prepared for any challenge. Grace's confidence soared as she realized her accomplishments were indisputable. The program administrators were impressed, not only with her innovative robot, but also with the detailed logs, progress notes, and evidence of her creative process. They could see clearly that she had built everything from scratch and that her achievements were entirely her own. When we received the official confirmation that Grace had been accepted into the program, we celebrated with a quiet dinner at home. It wasn't about extravagance, it was about acknowledgement, about reclaiming the power that had been unjustly taken from her. We reflected on the long months of struggle, the nights spent reconstructing stolen work, and the moments of fear and doubt. All of it had led to this victory, a testament to resilience, intelligence, and the unwavering support between a mother and her daughter. Grace hugged me tightly. "We did it, Mom. We really did it." "Yes, we did," I whispered, holding her close. "And nothing can ever take it away from you." As Grace settled into the Westbridge Young Innovators Program, I watched her adapt with remarkable ease. She was surrounded by peers who shared her passion, mentors who nurtured her curiosity, and projects that challenged her in ways I had only dreamed of providing at home. Each evening she returned home brimming with excitement, recounting what she had learned and showing me improvements she had made to her robot and other creations. The sense of belonging and validation was transformative. No longer was she simply the girl whose project had been stolen, the one whose creativity had been questioned. Now, she was recognized, celebrated, and respected for her talent. Seeing her grow in this environment, I realized how crucial it had been to protect her work and her confidence. The months of fear, anger, and frustration had given way to joy, accomplishment, and a newfound sense of security. I still occasionally checked our evidence folder, not out of distrust, but as a reminder of how far we had come. It symbolized resilience, honesty, and the lessons learned from adversity. Grace, however, was more focused on the future, sketching new ideas, imagining new prototypes, and dreaming bigger than ever before. And I knew that whatever challenges arose next, she had the tools, the determination, and the guidance to face them head on. The next challenge came unexpectedly. One afternoon, I received a call from the school principal. Apparently, Aunt Rebecca had contacted the administration, attempting to claim involvement in Grace's project, suggesting that the original design was partially hers. I felt a rush of anger, but knew that reacting impulsively would be a mistake. Instead, I calmly prepared a detailed presentation of evidence, timestamps, screenshots, video footage of Grace working, and her meticulously kept logs. When the meeting took place, I watched Grace explain each step of her work with confidence, her voice steady and proud. The administrators were impressed, not only with the thoroughness of her documentation, but also with the clarity and intelligence of her explanations. Rebecca's claims were swiftly dismissed, and it became clear that any attempt to undermine Grace would fail. The experience, though stressful, only strengthened Grace's resolve and reinforced the importance of diligence, integrity, and self-advocacy. Afterwards, we returned home, exhausted but triumphant. Grace hugged me tightly and whispered, "We're unstoppable, aren't we?" I smiled, knowing that our bond, forged through challenges and victories, had created a foundation for her to thrive in any situation. In the weeks that followed, Grace flourished both academically and emotionally. Her confidence radiated, her creativity soared, and she embraced challenges with enthusiasm rather than fear. She began mentoring younger students in coding and robotics, teaching them not just technical skills, but also the importance of perseverance and integrity. Watching her share her knowledge and passion filled me with pride beyond words. Our relationship strengthened too. Having faced adversity together, Grace and I had formed a partnership built on trust, respect, and mutual support. We celebrated small victories, reflected on challenges, and always reminded each other of the progress we had made. Life felt balanced, fulfilling, and hopeful, far removed from the anxiety and manipulation that had plagued us for months. Even though the shadow of Aunt Rebecca's interference lingered at times, it no longer held power over us. We had learned to protect ourselves, to stand up for our rights, and to value our achievements without seeking validation from those who had once tried to undermine us. Each day, Grace grew more capable, more confident, and more determined to create a future shaped by her own talent and hard work. Months passed, and Grace's achievements gained recognition beyond the program. She entered local science competitions, won accolades for her innovative designs, and received invitations to attend national STEM events. Her reputation as a talented, ethical, and determined young innovator spread, and I could see the pride in her posture, the joy in her eyes, and the unshakable confidence in her decisions. I too began to feel a sense of liberation. Protecting Grace had required courage, patience, and resilience, but the rewards were immeasurable. I realized that standing firm against the unfairness of family interference had not only safeguarded her future, but had also strengthened my own self-respect. We were free from manipulation, empowered by knowledge, and united in purpose. Grace's success was a testament to her talent and determination, but also to the unwavering support she received. Together, we had transformed a situation rooted in betrayal and injustice into one of growth, accomplishment, and empowerment. The future felt limitless, and for the first time, I felt fully confident that no challenge could derail the path we had built together. Looking back, it's hard to believe how close we came to losing everything. The stolen project, the betrayal by family, the moments of fear and doubt, all of it can have derailed Grace's dreams. Yet, each obstacle became a catalyst for growth, a lesson in resilience, and a chance to strengthen our bond. Grace had proven, not just to the world, but to herself, that talent combined with determination and integrity could overcome any adversity. As I watched her work on her latest prototype, a miniature robot capable of mapping complex environments, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. She was no longer just my daughter. She was a young innovator, a problem solver, and a symbol of perseverance. Our home, once overshadowed by fear and manipulation, now resonated with laughter, creativity, and possibility. The challenges we faced taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Protecting those we love requires courage, but it also allows the people we support to realize their true potential. Grace thrived because she had the freedom to create, explore, and succeed on her own terms. And I thrived because, together, we had built a future that no one could ever steal. We had reclaimed our lives, our confidence, and our dreams. And in that reclaimed space, anything seemed possible.